So don't shoot the messenger on this one. Recently, I was able to max out almost all of my pieces of king equipment. About said queen. Queen's not quite there yet. I still have the frozen arrow and the clone mirror to go. But my king's equipment is essentially done. The only piece that I have left is the earthquake boost. But those are pretty useless. About said useful. So I ran some numbers and I also did some attacks using the different pieces of the king's equipment. And the results were really interesting. I admit, I came into this with bias. What I found, wow. So let's get into the numbers. So as you can see, I have almost all my pieces maxed out. The giant gauntlet, the spiky ball, the barbarian king, the rage vial. I do not have the earthquake boots maxed, but that's because they suck. But I didn't say that. So I went ahead and ran some different scenarios using the different pieces of equipment. And let me go ahead and show you what it looked like, because I did the attack the exact same way every time. Now, I know that that's not necessarily gonna spell out in your attack exactly the way that I'm doing it, but if I do it the same way every single time, then it kind of gives us an idea of what we can expect if we're using those in our own attacks. So this first attack was with the Rage Vial and the Barbarian Puppet, and the Barbarian Puppet actually fared the worst out of almost all the pieces of equipment. Some of that, granted, could have been because of all the splash damage that is right here, and those Rage Barbarians do the best when there's not as much splash damage, but we're able to get 18%. Now, I ended the attack the moment that the King died, because we're looking at the King and the King's equipment right now, but went through the Rage Vial and the Barb Puppet. Now, what I thought was going to be the absolute strongest is the Gauntlet and the Spiky Ball, and it is super strong. So let's watch this here. I'm going to put the Ice Golem down. I'm going to have a couple of Sneaky Gobs in order to funnel my heroes in. They're going to go into this section. The goal, of course, is to take out this Inferno Tower, take out this Eagle, pull the Clan Castle troops, and then I can do whatever I want on the rest of the base, right? I can do a Lalo, I can do Dragons, whatever it is, Root Riders. But the goal here is to do a hero dive in order to get as much as possible. Now, with the Spiky Balls, you can see I was able to get a lot down, and it also did a lot of damage to buildings that were farther away. So, like, it did damage to that Expo, it did damage to that Inferno Tower, and the Spiky Ball does offer that. But as you can see, the Gauntlet and the Spiky Ball was able to get a lot further than the Rage Vial and the Barbarian Puppet. So 30% essentially with a hero dive is the goal, and that's kind of the gold standard when I was looking at it and how I thought that these tests would perform. Another combination that is very commonly used is the Gauntlet and the Rage Vial. So let's watch that one. Again, we're doing the exact same entry. We're going to put down the Ice Golem. We're going to have the Sneaky Goblins on the side. King, Queen. We're going in here. We want to completely maul and take down this entire section, pull the CC troops, right? All of that's the same. Now, in my King's Equipment recommendation video, I said that the top two pieces of equipment you should upgrade and you should focus on are going to be the Giant Gauntlet and Spiky Ball. I mean, they're the epic pieces of equipment, so you think that they would be the best, right? You think that they would give you the most stats, and they do. But I had several people who said, I'm sorry, but I'm not giving up the Rage Vial paired with the Giant Gauntlet because that's just too powerful. Now, something else to mention is if you find a more compact base, that combination may do better than in this specific scenario. So use these test results the best that you can. Whatever you think you can do with this information, and if you want to, after you see this, continue to run the Rage Vial and the Giant Gauntlet because you have a super compact base, then by all means, continue doing so. But it didn't do quite as well as the Giant Gauntlet and the Spiky Ball. And this, of course, was the Giant Gauntlet and the Rage Vial combination. Now, the last one is the one that I found most interesting and super shocking. And that combination is the Gauntlet and the Vampstache. Now, I know that the Vampstache has gotten a lot of hate. And also, you can argue, well, in this specific situation, that's the only reason that the Vampstache did well. But of all the attacks that I did, the Vampstache was equal with the Giant Gauntlet and the Spiky Ball, but also the Vampstache was the only one that was able to allow the king to come all the way over here and get down the RC. On top of getting rid of all of this with this high damage CC, it was able to get all of this down. The queen was able to take down the target, so she was going to take down. And the king was also able to get down the RC. So let's go ahead and speed it up just a little bit. And I'm thinking the reason for this is because the goal with these attacks is not necessarily the most damage in a short period of time. The goal is to keep the king alive. So the king on his own has massive DPS. The only hero that's stronger than the king, as far as DPS goes, is the queen. But the king is massive, and so if you can keep him alive longer, then he can stay up to do more damage. And this right here is where the king was actually, with the Phoenix, the help of the Phoenix, was able to take down the RC. I didn't know what to do with this information, so I decided to go ahead and run the Giant Gauntlet with the Vampstache with some of my attacks. And I think I know the reason why the Vampstache is hated on, but let's show you the attack, and then you can make your own decision on whether the Vampstache is worth putting on your king or not. Alright, so this last war, I decided to go ahead and run the Gauntlet and the Vampstache, and all of our wars are ending in perfect right now, which is interesting. That's a whole nother topic. Whether or not lots of clans getting perfect wars, tying, and how the influence that has on the ore production, since you're only getting 4/7 of the ore that you could if you're actually winning. But let me go ahead and show you this attack with the Giant Gauntlet and the Vampstache on. So I have been running Warden's Fireball, Super Witches, and any base that I see that has an invisibility spell area like that is perfect for the Fireball. So that's what I've been running. It's been working really well. Here comes the king, right? He's doing his thing. He gets all of that health, life stuff with the Giant Gauntlet and with the Vampstache. Every single hit, he's getting 300 HP boost. My Super Witches are doing their thing. My king is not going to the middle. So I don't know if this would be as true if the king was going to the middle, because would more DPS in the center of the base, like would he be able to take all of these Teslas out if he had the Vampstache and the Rage Vial on him? I don't know. That's a decision that you have to make for yourself. But I know in this situation, the king is able to last the entire attack. Now, I think the problem with it, and the reason why players hate on the Vampstache, is because of the animation. So whenever you have the Rage Vial, the king speeds up, he also blows up, he turns red, he looks really big, and he does a lot of damage, right? Whenever you have the Giant Gauntlet, of course you do have that blow up mechanism, but with the Vampstache there's no speed increase, so he doesn't go faster, it doesn't give him a speed boost, nothing like that. Let's go and show you the second attack to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Alright, so this is the second attack. Again, I see the Invis spell tower, I use my Fireball on it. Like, that's not the important part of this attack. So, we're gonna run through the initial part of this attack, and then I want to watch the king. So I have the Gauntlet and the Vampstache on the king, and we're gonna watch whenever his ability is pressed. So that happens right around here. Now look at it. He's walking so slow. So it kind of looks like, well, we're wasting his ability because he's walking so slow. And the Vampstache is a passive ability, so that means we're not getting any active ability status. Now, the question is, again, would he have been more useful if he had had the Gauntlet and the Rage Vial on him in this instance? And I don't know that he would have. Would he have died over here if he had had other pieces of equipment on him? So look, the results of all of this testing, and the reason that I'm kind of in shock, is from the realization that the Vampstache allows the king to stay alive longer, which allows him to do more damage in the long run. Now you have to determine if the Gauntlet Rage Vial is best for you, but if I know that the king is not going into the center, and I don't see a lot of area splash damage that the Gauntlet Rage Vial can produce, then I'm going to be running the Gauntlet and the Vampstache on all of my attacks. In fact, probably in Legend League I'm going to be doing the same too, because I'm using the king to funnel my super witches into the base, and my king typically stays on the outside of the base. And what's most important in that instance is that the king stay alive. And the giant gauntlets per second healing and the Vampstache per hit healing are just so much that the king is staying alive to the end of my attacks every single time. Do with this information as you will, but the Vampstache is definitely the hidden gem of all of the king's equipment, and it might be worth putting it on your king in some situations. So don't just automatically default to the Gauntlet Rage Vial or the Gauntlet Spiky Ball. Both of those are powerful combinations. The Gauntlet Vampstache may be the way to go. And just to add, all of those combinations had the Gauntlet with it, and the Gauntlet did the best of all the pieces of equipment, so use this information to your advantage. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you share this video with anybody who has questions about the king's equipment, which ones might be best for their king. If you're a little negative on the Vampstache, you may not want to share this video with them, but if you want them to know more about it, then please do. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos and content just like this. Until the next video, my name is TipDog20. I'll see you then.